They might call themselves a farm, but there's no sign of animals on this trading estate in Oxford. And while there are no pigs in this pig pen, they are producing meat.
This is the beginning of our process, and just like on a farm, we start with that small piece of meat.
From that meat, scientists pick out the cells that they want to replicate.
So you've identified your cells. What happens next?
So the next part is that we make sure we've got just the pure muscle and the pure fat cells. So we want to only grow the parts of the animal which we want to eat. So none of the gristly bits, tendon, cartilage, ligaments, etc.
When the cultivated meat cells leave there, their biology, their genetics is, if you like, just right. But how does that actually become a piece of meat? Stage 2.
This is the next stage of the process. It's essentially a mixing tank, and this is the first time those cells will have come from a flask or a petri dish and ended up in something that resembles a production process.
What is actually in there?
So in there we have some beef cells at the moment, some beef muscle stirring around, and then we've got our own culture media formulation, which is the nutrition for the cells, it's food.
So are those cells growing in there all the time?
They are, exactly. So we'll bring those through the process from smaller scales up through larger and larger. As if you would on a farm, you move the herd from a smaller pen to a bigger pen.
After 3 to 4 days, the cells multiply and grow to form small lumps of muscle tissue before being transferred to this stainless steel tank where they continue to swell.
And when it's grown up in there, is it you looking like a fillet steak? I mean, what's actually coming out?
We're not quite at the stage of fillet steaks yet. We will be there in years to come. But what comes out of the process is similar to mincemeat.
A texture that's ideal for something like a Scotch egg. And where better to try a cultured meat Scotch egg than Fortnum and Masons, the posh London grocer beloved by the royals and creator of the original Scotch egg recipe back in 1738.
Well, I can't wait to go for it. Let's do it. Is it right that Fortnum's claims to have invented the Scotch egg?
We do indeed. So over 300 years ago, we apparently did invent it as a way to feed people on the go.
I don't normally eat Scotch eggs with a knife and fork, but given I'm Fortnum's, I feel it was the right thing to do. So here we go. Oh, the egg looks very nice.
Well, I'm going to pick it up as it was originally
so
intended.
Here we go. That is very nice. That is great. It's got some seasoning in there. I can taste some herbs and spices and very nice texture as well. I'm getting a genuinely meaty flavour as well. Do you think it's a significant moment in the evolution of lab-grown meat?
Absolutely. I think that cultivated meat's absolutely sort of in its infancy on the grand scheme of things, and we are unbelievably honoured to be able to create the first ever cultivated meat Scotch egg, and actually to be amongst the first people ever to taste it outside of a lab is a really exciting thing to be part of.
How do you think your customers will react to cultivated meat? I mean, something that was essentially grown in a lab.
It would certainly take a little bit of education because it's new and it's something that we're not used to seeing, and at the moment it feels like one of those very sci-fi things that people can't quite believe is really happening.
Despite this showcase, you won't find it on the shelves here anytime soon. The technology hasn't even been approved by the Food Standards Agency yet, and some experts think this isn't where we should be focusing our efforts. But what do the public think?
I would try lab-grown meat because I'm conscious of how farming meat affects the environment.
That's a hell no from me. I'm going to eat beef. I'd rather it be out in the field eating healthily.
I just don't like the idea of it. I think it sounds weird.
But with the enormous global meat industry facing growing concerns over its greenhouse gas emissions, cultured meat companies and their investors are betting big on a lab-grown future.
Well, there's some quite bullish projections. So AT&T, for example, predicted that 35% of all meat could be cultivated by 2040. So meat is a $1.3 trillion industry right now, so that's pretty enormous.
Whether the thought of this arguably lower gilt meat grosses you out or whets your appetite, it might be appearing on our shelves in the not too distant future.